Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Wi-Fi and driving innovation and its impact over the last 25 years. It's always great to be here in front of WBA. Appreciate Tiago for the invite. We really value the partnership and the collaboration that happens between Wi-Fi Alliance and the Wireless Broadband Alliance. And I'll talk a little bit about areas where maybe we can even deepen that collaboration. Oh, got the wrong one there. Okay. So Wi-Fi has had a profound impact on the globe, and it's hard to debate that. Wi-Fi has transcended both physical, geographical boundaries to connect people all over the world. Wi-Fi has enabled people to collaborate and connect without limits. And as we really took a look back at the 25-year anniversary of Wi-Fi and what we have done to get to this point, we wanted to take a little bit more of a broader look and look at things like the societal impacts, the economic impacts, as well as the technological impacts of Wi-Fi as a way, what is that foundation of where we are and how is that a jumping off point into the future? So before I get into some of my other remarks, I just want to very brief video for you. 5 years of Wi-Fi.
In a world where connectivity is essential, one technology revolutionized our lives. 25 years ago, Wi-Fi emerged, liberating us from cables and unleashing the power of the internet. Wi-Fi granted us access to the world from anywhere. We could connect with people around the globe, stream entertainment, and access information instantaneously. Wi-Fi's impact on society is profound. It revolutionized industries, expanded communication, and spurred innovation, contributing trillions to the global economy. Education flourished, and healthcare efficiency improved. Homes became smarter and safer. Businesses embraced flexible work and enabled greater employee productivity. Transportation segments delivered better passenger connectivity. Wi-Fi transcends boundaries, connecting people worldwide, fostering communication and collaboration on global initiatives. As we honor Wi-Fi's 25th anniversary, let us pause to marvel at its journey, from humble beginnings to the cornerstone of modern civilization. For in its legacy, we find not just technology, but the promise of a brighter, more connected future for all.
You always get worried about what the play next is going to come up on when you use YouTube. So I think we dodged any bullets, right? So of course, all of you are really part of that 25-year story of Wi-Fi as well. After the past quarter century, there have been incredible innovations happening on top of Wi-Fi. When you look at the range, performance, security, et cetera. And so it's hard to argue that Wi-Fi has become one of the most critical technologies the world has ever seen. In fact, it really kind of transcends technology and gets into, again, an engine of economic innovation, quite frankly. We're sitting here today with approximately 21 billion Wi-Fi devices in active use. And it's really hard to kind of put that in perspective. So we're now more than 2 Wi-Fi devices for every man, woman, and child on the planet. So again, we built from an incredibly strong foundation, but there is still a lot of work to do. And I think as you think back to some of the presentations that were happening a little bit earlier this morning, there's a lot we as an industry can do around seamless connectivity, around performance, new use cases. And Wi-Fi Alliance, certainly working with partners like WBA and others, is committed to delivering solutions and features that will ultimately enrich Wi-Fi user experiences around the globe. Of course, as we're celebrating our 25-year anniversary, we also have World Wi-Fi Day coming up very soon. So kind of the nexus of those two is probably a great time to celebrate both what we've been able to accomplish and what is still to come. 6 gigahertz, quite simply, is the foundation of next generation Wi-Fi. And it really pained me, frankly, to see Matt's slide and it said, oh, I care about speed, I care about determinism. So spectrum was like way, 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 way down here. And the reason it pains me a little bit is because we have to care about this. Because if we don't care about this and we don't get the spectrum, a lot of those things that we're talking about in these innovative use cases are going to be hampered. So again, a little bit, this is hey, people, we need to be paying attention to this. Now, of course, organizations like the Wi-Fi Alliance very often are kind of leading the charge on that and carrying the flag. But it's important that, especially companies that are operating in different geographies, that the regulators, the policymakers in those geographies understand the importance of this to your companies. So as I said, 60 gigahertz is the foundation of next generation Wi-Fi. This year will approach roughly 750 million 6 gigahertz devices shipped just this year. And about 1/3 of those, so just over a 250 million devices, are Wi-Fi 7 devices making use of 6 gigahertz. So again, it is the foundation of next generation Wi-Fi. And I believe we have roughly 1,300 individual products that are certified for operation in 6 gigahertz. So just a couple of vignettes on 6 gigahertz being the foundation of Wi-Fi. It is the foundation for esports. Esports is probably one of the last bastions of wired-only connectivity. Maybe, as Matt said, finance is probably another one of those where they're going, it's kind of like, you're going to pry my Ethernet cable from my cold dead hand type thing, right? But here we have a great example of where a Wi-Fi Alliance member, Nokia, actually put on this first ever event. So it was a kind of a fundraising esports event with professional, I can't believe I'm saying this, professional esports players, right? And they use entirely Wi-Fi based on 6 gigahertz. So we are at that point now where people are going to start letting go of that cable, and it's not from a dead hand. They're actually willingly letting go of it because of what we're able to accomplish with this spectrum. So it really showcased some of Wi-Fi's near deterministic latency capabilities. And this was in a package that is not just a gaming router. This is more of like a CPE going into a residential environment, is able to accomplish these things. 6 gigahertz, of course, is also the foundation for healthcare. Wi-Fi has been instrumental in delivering healthcare activity, and there's an example of this is we're actually doing a trial in a teaching hospital in Bangkok, Rama Hospital, and it's looking at what is the difference between that connectivity in these dense deployments, let's say using VR headsets to teach medical students how to do things like surgeries without actually having cadavers. And we're demonstrating the impact in that specific environment of having 6 gigahertz available versus in the full 1200 megahertz versus just part of the band, right? And so we're going to have some real research that's showing what is the impact in these, frankly, these are cornerstone use cases for Wi-Fi. We're day in, day out, this is where we're being used, and we're going to show the importance of that. And we're starting to see an incredibly robust Wi-Fi certified 7 device market emerge. These are just a sampling of some of the certified Wi-Fi 7 products that are out there. I encourage everybody, certify your products. It matters, right? There are things that we catch in our certifications that otherwise would be going out to the market if you're not going through this. But we're seeing everything from, obviously on the infrastructure side, we're seeing those flagship smartphones. And part of what's driving this is because there are very few smartphones really need 10 gigabits per second sustained connectivity. But again, getting back to some of the other speakers, it's the consistency of this experience, the determinism, the low latency. Those are all becoming increasingly more important. And you're seeing these tri-band phones with Wi-Fi 7. Wi-Fi Alliance recently put out a new resource that really underscored the importance of the spectrum to achieve infrastructure goals. And it's focused specifically on the EU. And right now, frankly, for our industry, that's kind of the most important next step around enabling the full 1200 megahertz for 6 gigahertz spectrum is in the EU. And frankly, many other regions are looking at what happens in the EU as the template for where. So while we've had very good, I'm not sure like how loud to yell because I'm going to blow out your ears when the mic comes back on.
Where are the restrooms? See?
Yep. Okay, we're good now? Okay. And as I was saying, the EU is really going to be a critical area for us in our advocacy activities. And so one of the things we did to make it very, very clear and very obvious for policymakers is, as you may know, in the EU, there are these very large initiatives around, gigabit everywhere, right? So huge investments in infrastructure, doing fiber to the home, other approaches to ensure that everybody in the EU, they've kind of left out of that analysis, which is, okay, well, I've actually got to get it to the device. It's got to get to your laptop. It's got to get to your smartphone. It's got to get to your gaming console, whatever, right? And so this research is looking at what actually happens from a probability standpoint. What is the probability that I can deliver 250 megabits per second, 500, a gigabit, multi-gigabit in actual European construction, apartments, condos, et cetera? And what we found is that with access to only 5 channels, 5 160 megahertz channels, which is going to be the status quo if you don't get the entire portion of the band, you have roughly a 50% chance of actually delivering gigabit connectivity to any given user. Right, so it lays out very clearly that now when you get into 10 channels, you have very, very high probabilities of actually hitting that in real world environments, given the interference from one apartment to the next. So this is one of the key resources that we're actually using to make the case for, if you want to achieve these goals in terms of delivering high performance connectivity for economic competitiveness, economic growth, et cetera, societal benefits, spectrum makes a difference. Now, some people, I'm just going to touch on this briefly. Some other people have hit on it, but obviously 6 gigahertz is even better once you start adding in standard power. We are very early in the rollout of standard power. Obviously, the US has enabled it. I said in Canada has enabled it. There are a number of AFC operators that are going through the process there. And that's kind of where it stands right now. And we're looking at additional regions, South Korea, Japan, and others to enable standard power. But this starts getting us into some of those outdoor use cases, the ability to do 6 gigahertz in, let's say, the bowl of a stadium, or using it for point-to-point connections, or even doing higher power indoors, where you don't, where because of building entry loss, you still have to be concerned about interference with incumbents. So this is going to deliver higher performance from Wi-Fi when we're able to add in standard power. And of course, a lot of the work on this is happening in the Alliance in terms of developing what do the testing regimes look like to get through certification. So as an example, the FCC actually refers back to the testing that Wi-Fi Alliance has developed as kind of think of it as a shortcut to get through the FCC certification process. The next generation of applications will emerge as a result of some of those advanced capabilities that I've talked about, and of course, previous speakers have talked about. Things like MLO, things like target wait time, MLO with target wait time in terms of triggering to get lower latencies. So obviously, artificial intelligence, both on the network management side as well as other applications of artificial intelligence that are going to benefit from what Wi-Fi can expose to those learning models, whether it is proximity through things like sensing or Wi-Fi location, et cetera. So really a fertile area around AI with Wi-Fi. Industrial IoT, we are going to continue to push into this area with that determinism that Wi-Fi is able to offer, and as well as things like extended reality, VR, et cetera. So my last slide, these are some of the near-term areas where I think we really need to focus on for continued Wi-Fi innovation. I've kind of beat this one a bit, but we really need to be focusing on advocating for spectrum that is ultimately necessary for the long-term success of Wi-Fi. Also, improving Wi-Fi device interaction. A number of the presenters previously brought up the perennial problem of sticky clients, poor roaming from one access point to another, et cetera. And there are initiatives going on within the Alliance right now that we would love to have more service providers involved in, where we're actually doing in-depth interoperability with devices, with real service provider equipment to determine what are some of the reasons we're seeing that, and how can we roll those learnings into our certification programs so the Wi-Fi certified means something more to the service provider and to the client vendors to ultimately deliver a better experience. And then finally, it's incredibly important that we're, especially in the Alliance, that we're engaging with various Wi-Fi customer segments to ensure the Wi-Fi remains this catalyst for innovative market solutions. And frankly, the WBA, I think, is one of the incredibly important and strategic areas for us in terms of a customer segment to do that. So thank you all. I apologize, move that minute over, but I'm going to blame it on the mic problems.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kevin.